I'm Ara. Super excited to be here. Today we are going to take a walk through Alaska, exploring what nutrients hermit crabs need to thrive and how to make your own hermit crab food at home. So let's do this.
I am always bringing something home. Foraging is a routine part of my life. It's practical, it's satisfying, and it adds a lot of variety to what I can offer for my crabs. But before we get into foraging, I want to talk about nutrients because this is where things often get confusing. For as long as I can remember, Crab Street Journal has referenced a list of 29 essential vitamins, minerals, and amino acids that hermit crabs need to thrive. These include things like arginine, lysine, copper, calcium, the omegas, and chitin, each with its own role in growth. When people talk about hermit crab nutrition, I often hear them refer to the food groups. And those food groups are helpful. They're a guideline for variety, which is crucial for these animals. But food groups are not the same as nutrients. Just because you've included something from each category, like a nut, a seed, a fruit, a veggie, a protein, doesn't mean you've covered all recommended nutrients. We have to go deeper. And this is where the conversation gets complicated because there's no lab-tested gold standard we can hold our mixes up against. There's no AFCO-style regulation. The requirements we have are based on the best available research, but they come from studies on farmed aquatic crustaceans, not land hermit crabs. The truth is, it's the best we have, and I personally think it's an incredible resource. But even that list isn't complete. We're still learning what land hermit crabs actually need, and while that might feel overwhelming, it should also feel empowering. Because every mix we make, every observation we share, it contributes to the larger understanding. We shouldn't just slap a complete label on a food and call it good, because real nutrition isn't that simple. It's not just about what goes into a mix, it's about what survives the process, what's bioavailable to the crab, what combinations they need based on their environment, their molt cycle, their age, their stress levels, and even season. This is why variety isn't optional, it's crucial. The more we understand about hermit crabs, the more we realize how much we still don't know. But that's okay because we're learning together. And here's something we all need to remember, I think. Even for the people who are doing the most research, this can feel overwhelming. And when every question, every theory or suggestion gets treated as absolute fact and immediately repeated across the community, it puts a huge weight on all the shoulders of the few who are trying to learn out loud. We're all figuring this out together. And we need to be okay with the idea that some of what we believe now might change. Some of it might be even wrong, and that doesn't mean we failed, it means we're growing. The best thing we can do as crab keepers is stay open, stay curious, hold space for uncertainty. Hermit crab keeping is still in its infancy, and it needs your help. And one of the most powerful things we can do for the crabs and our own confidence as keepers is to start exploring food at the source, and that's where foraging comes in. Foraging isn't just about saving money or grabbing a few plants from outside. It's about building a deeper connection with what we feed, seeing the world through our crab's needs, and learning to recognize nutrition in its wildest, most natural form. Foraging doesn't just mean wandering through the woods with a field guide and a basket. It can, but it doesn't have to. Foraging is really just the act of being intentional about where your food comes from. It could be asking a friend or family member who hunts if they have fish skin, bones, organ meat to spare. It could mean stopping at your local Amish market or international grocery store and picking up things like dried seaweed, quail eggs, dried anchovies. It might be saving pumpkin seeds from the trash or finding a new kind of mushroom at your farmer's market. It's about noticing, looking at the world, with a new kind of curiosity. Could this be useful? Could this feed a need my crabs have? You don't have to be a wilderness expert. You don't need a forest in your backyard. You just need a willingness to pay attention, ask questions, and see potential where others might not. That's foraging too. But when it does come to wandering in the woods for plants, the most important thing to keep in mind is where you're harvesting. Is it a state-maintained park? Even if it seems wild, it could be sprayed with pesticides or herbicides. If it's near a road, the plants can absorb stuff from cars. If you or your neighbors spray for mosquitoes, the residue can linger on nearby plants, making them unsafe. Here in Alaska, most of the places I forage are so remote that pesticides, road chemicals, and pollution aren't a concern because we spend our summers 60 miles north of the Arctic Circle with no towns nearby. When we go fishing and dip netting, we know the salmon and trout are from clean, safe waters. Remember, this is a guide for personal use, not on how to legally sell pet food. That is a whole nother can of worms. I have a fishery processing license, meaning I can sell the byproducts of the fish I catch. I understand not everyone has opportunities like this, which is why it is so fun to share what's local to you. By foraging and exchanging what we find, even people who can't forage still get to offer their crabs a taste of different biomes. Not sure if a plant species is safe? That's where the Lycos Food Database comes in. Created by Stacy Griffith, it's an incredible resource listing both safe and unsafe foods with explanations of why. You can search by common name, scientific name, and more. Let's say you're curious about a tree you saw while foraging. Look it up in the database. The database is regularly updated, so you're getting the most accurate information. It is worth noting that some outdated safe food list might include unsafe items, like willow. Recent studies have shown that compounds in certain willow bark can harm brine shrimp, so we no longer consider it safe. That's why it's always best to check the database instead of relying on old lists. You can find the database by going to crabstraightjournal.org and scrolling to the bottom of the Ultimate Guide to Feeding Your Hermit Crabs. Once you've gathered your safe foods, it's time to clean and prepare them. If you want to feed the foods fresh, you can rinse them into chlorinated water, like water treated with prime. This is okay for things like dandelions or live leaves. But certain items like wood and leaf litter should be sanitized first, and I recommend baking or boiling to kill off any bugs. Freezing is not a foolproof method. It doesn't kill everything. For example, rove beetles can survive freezing temperatures. I've had infestations of these little guys, and trust me, they are a nightmare to get rid of. But if you're planning on storing it, using it as decor, or turning it into a powder food, dehydration is the route you're going to want to take. A dehydrator is a great investment. It circulates warm air to dry food evenly, locking in nutrients and making it last for ages. There are stackable dehydrators, great for small spaces and beginners. Budget-wise, Walmart dehydrators get the job done, but they don't have a temperature control, which can affect nutrient retention. Shelf-style dehydrators are larger and much better for bulk drying. They often have adjustable temperature settings, which is awesome for drying sensitive foods like fruit or meats or herbs. But there are other drying methods like baking. You can set your oven to around 200 degrees Fahrenheit. It's not energy efficient, but it's great for things like wood or acorns that require a higher heat. You can use air fryers. Many have a dehydrator setting, but they're best for small batches. You could use a microwave. They're only good for delicate foods like herbs. Keep a close eye to avoid burning. You can dry things in the sun. It's much better in hot climates. It is weather dependent. But freeze drying is the gold standard for nutrient preservation. But it's expensive. My grandmother has one, and she makes the cutest instant soup pouches for the family and sends me all kinds of goodies to use for the shop. Once your food is dried, you can adjust the texture to suit your crab's preferences. Some crabs love crunchy textures, others prefer softer, easier to eat powders. A spice grinder or mortar and pestle works great, Personally, I love using my coffee grinder. For storage, I use airtight containers and label them with the date. Keep them in a cool, dark place, like a pantry. If you're making large batches, vacuum sealing will help keep the food fresh longer. I mean, there are so many little things you could learn, but you now know the basics if you didn't before. There are a few things to watch out for while you're foraging, specifically like unsafe plants that might be in unexpected places. Like all we have here is spruce. There is so much spruce. Where you live, you might see pine. But evergreens, they have an insecticide in the bark, and the needles get everywhere. So you want to make sure that you're not bringing home needles when you're bringing home things like moss. If you find a nice moss and it is covered in spruce or pine, you have the option of choosing to manually clean it, but you never know. Personally, I would just skip it. There are some other hidden unsafe things to be careful of. Some things you might find on wood are some different kinds of lichens that can be directly unsafe. One of those is sunshine lichen. It's actually known to harm isopods in the isopod keeping community. Here we have these trees called bird cherry or choke cherry, and the bird cherry specifically is known to kill moose. And they drop berries all over the yard and all over the porch, so be careful not to pick up leaves. I don't pick up leaves off the ground at all for this very reason. Just get out there, forage. We all have that internal primal instinct inside of us that makes us want to go forage and gather and harvest. It really is as much for us as it is for our crab. Wow, that was a lot. We covered so much. Like, how just because you feed all the food groups and recommended nutrients doesn't mean you're meeting everything they might need. Forage smartly. Always consider the source when foraging. Avoid areas with pesticides or pollution. When in doubt, skip it. Use your resources. The Lycos Food Database is your best friend. And don't forget Stacy May's Fresh and Foraged Food Guide. It's amazing. Find your method. Choose a dehydrating method that works for you. And most importantly, have fun.
After all that, nutrition, foraging, prep, there's still one more thing. The people who got us here. Before I end, I want to say something bigger than thanks. Thanks feels too small for how I feel. I want to express my deepest gratitude to the people of Hermit House and Lycos. Since joining the community in 2018, I've kind of been hiding in my shell, just absorbing and learning and watching what all of you amazing people have been doing. Now, being here today, participating in CrabCon, I'm honestly just overwhelmed in the best way to be here. To be among people who have literally been the game changer for an entire species. Mary Akers, Stacy Griffith, Stacy May, and so many others. You are the pillars of this movement. You stand between ignorance and understanding, between suffering and survival. You've carried the weight of care, research, education, all on your backs for years. And honestly, I'm just so happy I can be a part of the legacy you guys have created. Okay, done being sappy. But for real, when passionate people put their minds together, it is crazy what can happen. Mass change. Post your findings. Share what you've been experimenting with. Take photos. Take notes. If you forage, tell us what you found. Be curious. Be bold. Ask questions. Be a part of the collective. You don't have to know everything. You just have to care enough to try. We're still writing the story of how to take care of these animals. Pick up the pen. Your voice matters.
I don't know what the nutrients are
I
doing.
don't even know the nutrients of the
So
burning bush.
but it looks pretty because it's like a red leaf in amongst all the green. So, but it all depends when you forage it, when you dehydrate it, where you capture that color.
Yeah.
I guess would be the two different colors. Yeah, I would assume so because it changes due to photosynthesis and as the carotene is also the red, the green. So yeah.
I wonder.
There's something scientific about it. I'm not a scientist. I just know.
Yeah.
You definitely have to rehydrate flowers so you don't.
Well, that's the thing. Like dandelions, I feel like it's completely fine to just rinse them off. That's okay. But with books, that's a big thing. Yeah, like in fireweed, like honestly, they are covered in rose beetles, and those are my least favorite bugs. I love bugs. I can't deal with those. But they are covered, so I have to rinse them off in cold water and then dehydrate them at a high temperature. Unlike most flowers that I dehydrate at a low temperature.
Does it turn them crunchy?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like it when they're soft at all. I just don't like it.
Do you think the crabs, they're okay with it being crunchy versus the?
See, that's the thing. Honestly, Mary pointed out to me once in a group that for all we know, mixes and dry food are not how they need their nutrients. We have no idea. This is what we need to last.
Yeah, I always wondered about that because there's so many mixes and they're all dry, and I feel like, gosh, they need like soft
Variety.
stuff, like like something they would walk up to a bush and pull off,
Like food aspersion, I grew them last year, because you can eat them.
Yeah.
Give it edible, great. Personal, we had 5 grams, none of them touched them. So
Really?
kind of like here.
Yeah, make a note. Maybe they have something in it, like a spicy. Or...
Yeah, what Alice was saying about I will focus on the rotation and stuff like that. There's a really cool video about the changing colors. So I did this a bunch of the homeschool kids studying it, and amazingly, all those colors are there in the leaves, but as it's doing the photosynthesis, it's making the chlorophyll, and then that just kind of goes away.
It's like green.
Other colors. So I'll send some videos that explain some of that. And also what you're saying about what we know now versus what we know in the future. And that's true about everything. We were talking about that. I mean, the way my mom raised me is not what we do today. Like my mom put, baby cereal in my formula at like 2 weeks old because they didn't think me about crying. Nowadays, they just want to freak out of it. But it's the best that they do at the time. And that's human. So when you're talking about this one kind of rare creature, we don't know anything. And we got
No, not touching. It's for the people watching, it's possible to sort of restate the question.
Oh, all right. Yeah.
We don't have to.
Okay, I didn't even think about that.
You don't have to do that. You can do that.
Okay. Any more questions? Hey.
You noticed a favorite. I don't know.
I'd say probably like salmon. Like we go dip netting, so we have so much salmon. I feel like it's because it's fishy. We always like fishy stuff. Honestly, I had a crab and his favorite food was gratitude, mango, honey jalapeno. Just gotta throw that out there. Shout out to Amber. Sorry, I was supposed to restate Jamie's question. She said, what's my crab's favorite food that I forage? Yeah, probably meat. Like we have bison, salmon. Yeah.
I eventually want to do a really interesting talk on foraging and the dangers of foraging. Maybe you talked about that. I was doing something.
Yeah, for me it's really hard because everything in Alaska is covered in spruce. There's sap and needles and it's everywhere and sap. And people will be like, oh, the pine cones are safe. No, because if they say it's in the bark and so the needles are fine and they all are avoided by isopods and everything. Like they all know that it's not good.
Mary, are you talking about also personal? Yeah, with bees and rattlesnakes. Yeah.
Yeah, I go everywhere with bear spray. Like if I go out like a couple yards from the camp, I always think of bear spray. We have a bear there and it's dry. Oh, it's like a mace. It's like a big, like a pepper spray. Yeah, it's just like, yeah. Well, there's, I don't actually know if ours do. There's one, yeah.
What kind of bear? Is it grizzly or?
No, I think there might be a grizzly in camp, but our bear Drax is a black bear. He's very brown in color and he's like, he's a black bear. Yeah, sure.
So a lot of the stuff that you're talking about foraging is the plants and the fruits and the fish and stuff, but what about the limestone?
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, a couple years ago, oh yeah, you said the question, she's asking about limestone. Yeah, so I saw when you were mining the very first year, I was like, this is weird, that the rock turned into powder was that. So I posted in a group, and they're like, oh, that's limestone, so I was like, how do I make sure, what kind of limestone? And so there's like a vinegar test, and how it fizzes will tell you if it's like a dull, limestone, I think, what it is. And that would mean it's like high in magnesium and like a little lower in calcium. But limestone is a calcium carbonate, so it's just made of like ancient shells that's solidified in the rock. And at our mine, I didn't even mention that. My partner is a gold miner specifically, so when we dig up the ground a lot, so I get access to a lot of great things like I can do quartz and like finding lots of little quartz and like putting it in the bottom of the pool. Yeah, I find bones and stuff. That's fun. Yeah.
That's what you can do, but you had like a shot of you did a dehydrator and there were all these like red things. Was that?
That was a salmon egg.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm able to sell the byproduct for the fish that I catch. I can't actually sell the salmon technically. Yeah, it can't be licensed. It's for personal use only. But with the processing license, it allows you to byproduct, so the guts and the eggs specifically. Most of the time, the eggs are just grown to seagulls. And yeah, so I'm walking around at the ocean, and I'm like, hey, can I have this salmon egg? And they're like, yeah. So I'm like bringing them a bag, and they're just filling it up. Because I think last year then it was 80 something for the 3 of us, or 4 of us, so it's like 20 each kind of thing. So we got a lot of salmon. We're not growing this year. Salmon from last year, crazy stuff.
Do you grind up like the fins and
The skin and stuff, I haven't really because it's hard to cut, and then when there's bones in it, it doesn't want to blend up well. It's kind of like, the only other meat I've had issues blending up like that is bison for some reason. Steak will blend up well with anything else. I feel like if they were freeze dried, if I can convince my grandmother to let me put fish in the freeze dryer, I think that would do well. Yeah. Okay. Well, do you have any more questions? Do I have to stay up here?
looking at the chat that you could.
Okay. My crabs love fishing off the, they love watching, Ara. It's Para, but I can't read it. Sorry. Oh, yeah, I do that. There are lots of questions in the chat. Okay. Ara, do you have like skin bones? I bet. Yeah, I always like avoid the bones because like it's not good for dogs. I just kind of ignore them. But they're calcium. Yeah, definitely. They like fish. They like eating fishes. Everything that was, yeah.
So you grew up in Alaska? Right?
Yeah, so fun.
Get interested in running across certain trails.
Wow, that was my favorite question. Wow. Just because they're misunderstood, and I've always been strong for that. When I was in high school, my science teacher had a box turtle and a sulcata tortoise, and I was like, this doesn't look right. Like, I don't know anything about animals. Like, I grew up with animals, but like, my grandma didn't know what she was doing either. And I don't know, I just looked it up and I was like, this doesn't look like the right habitat. So I joined some groups and I was educating myself and I tried to educate the teacher. And it was a long battle, but eventually he let me take the box turtle home, and the transformation that happened when I gave it what it needed was absolutely insane. It's like changed my life. And since then I was like, what's the most misunderstood animal? And for a while I thought it was betta fish, and I joined like every group on Facebook because betta fish are pretty mistreated, and little hamsters are pretty bad, and like honestly any big lizard. And I found the hermit crabs and like learning about them in the groups and learning how badly they're treated, I was like, wow, this is my animal. So I prepared a whole habitat and I rescued one from this family. And then I was working at Petco at the time. So I was able to like basically just took some home that didn't have their big claw, took 2 home, and then I had a little group of 3. And that's how it all started.
Yeah, raise your hand if that's you too.
Yeah.
So, this is our practicing very nocturnal, more doing long day, long night cycles.
Honestly, so I noticed behavior changes in the different days, like, because Alaska has way different light. I have a really nice, like, off to bright, off to on light, and I also have UVB in the tank, so they get their light, but I do notice they're very slow in the winter time. Like during the winter, it's like dark most of the time, like the sun doesn't doesn't come up until like noon or 11:30, and then it sets at like 3 in the winter. In the summer, it can be like daylight all year round, so they get daylight all year round, or all summer. I don't know. They're pretty active crowds. I only have the 4 right now, but they all have really big personalities.
Online, Liz wants to know, how do you identify a new plant you might come across? Do you just rely on Google or do you use any app?
I really like to see iNaturalist. That's my favorite. They're very accurate. They provide lots of pictures so you can check it yourself, and they link you to like Wikipedia and all that, so you can actually look at the plant and decide if it's actually what you think it is. Yeah. What time is it? It feels like I've been up here an hour. All right. I'm having fun. I love you guys.
Anybody else? Any other questions?
You're allowed to retreat to your shell.
Dr. Tyson has a question.
Do you ever use any indigenous knowledge for local groups? Now, do you use it also there for website?
Yeah, Alaska there's a lot of culture. I don't really know what that, we use a lot of like, oh, my partner's telling me something crazy. I wonder what he's saying.
Drag them up on stage.
Oh, don't get him on stage. That's the bad time. He will talk. Yeah, go to the booth if you want to talk. I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, I feel like it's just like blueberries and meats and how to prepare meats, and I can't sell anything that natives can get, like whales and like do they eat walrus? It's my favorite animal. Do they eat walrus?
Oh, yes, I agree.
Is that a thing?
They're allowed to.
That would not be in our forest guide.
No, it will be safe.
Study that.
Oh boy. I thought Round Island was protected. So here's the thing, I live at a weird property and I found 10 walrus jaws on the property. And I was like, can I put this in my crab tank? Yeah, that'd be a very expensive crab tank, but I haven't found a way to do it yet. But yeah, bones are all good. That'd be so cool, ivory. Do what? That'd be very cool. I feel, yeah, definitely does. That would be so cool. I feel like you'd like smoked salmon, and then you have smoked salmon. That'd be so cool. Things like that. I feel like I'm pretty familiar with Alaskan culture because I've lived there my whole life. But to me, it's kind of just like second nature. It's hard to think about. Like, what do they do? For me, I just think of whale, like must have. but I don't know, I mean, I'm misunderstanding the question, I'm not sure.
Just like if you're having like plants, and then have medicinal knowledge.
Oh,
about
yeah.
what they plant.
Like, there's bog Labrador tea, that's something that people will often make, because it only grows, I think, in Alaska, and maybe like in Canada a little bit. But it's like an anti-inflammatory, and it can be used to be put on cuts and things like that. And that's safe. It's not dangerous to anything. So I don't know. I don't think it's on the database. It's one of those things. I've never been into my crabs, but like things like that, yeah, I could look into that. That'd be fun. Yeah.
When you dehydrate your crab food, I know you said you different temperatures and whatnot. What are your sources using to find out what temperature?
Wow. That's a good question. I've actually compiled, and I was hoping to have my cookbook here at CraftCon. I was making a cookbook, but I was not able to get it printed. And I have a list of like all the different types of flours and all the dehydration times that I recommend, because it's a lot to look through. I can't really give a source. I feel like ChatGPT is pretty accurate with what I know, because I'm like quickly be like, I don't know, it's pretty good. You can, and it'll give you the sources too, so you can actually check if it's like, I recommend like cooking websites, basically. I think that's the best way to put it. 'Cause they'll explain like, and a lot of it's like trial and error too. Because like I'll learn that like lilacs will turn like brown if you dehydrate them too high. So I'm just like going through batches of lilacs, just turning the temperature down to see what it's bad. And people dehydrate lilacs for jelly and stuff like that. So they're, I don't know. Because they'll say like 155 and that's too high. But okay, can I be done?
Yes.
This is good. Thank you